Today I'll be telling a story about me and ADHD. So I've been the clumsiest person ever. When I was small, my head was always in the clouds and I could never really relate to the other kids. While I can't recall getting into much trouble, I know that I used to misplace stuff here and there, but it wasn't a concern. Maybe I was too young to remember. These things only started plaguing me as I grew up and started having more responsibilities. As I went to middle school, my tiny goldfish brain started causing me some trouble. I often forgot stuff like textbooks and stationery and had trouble paying attention in classes. This and coupled with the pressures of growing up. So as an Asian kid, we were burdened literally and figuratively by textbooks. I had so many books that one school bag couldn't carry all of them, so I needed 2 of those. I misplaced my second bag so many times. There was also even one time that I came back from school without both bags. My dad felt like something was off, so he brought me to a doctor thinking that it might have been a nutritional deficiency. So we tested and everything seemed fine, which left me puzzled. After getting punished for forgetting my textbooks for the 10,000th time, one of my teachers recommended that I see the school counselor because she was like, this shouldn't be normal. After a conversation with the counselor, we concluded that it was most likely due to stress, which I was indeed having quite some at the time. While it did make me feel acknowledged for a while, the problems didn't go away, which left me even more puzzled. When I turned 16, I started to really struggle in class, especially with logic-heavy classes like math and physics, because I zone out way too often than I would like. It's like, why does everyone understand but not me? I was discouraged, but then I found something. The secret. The golden nugget. Past year papers. I had a realization. For middle school and high school, most exams recycle questions from past year papers. So what I did was I drilled so many past year papers to the point where I saw the first word of a question, I could blurt out the answer immediately. I ended up getting straight A's and even went on stage to shake hands with the state minister for an excellence award. So that's my happy ever after. Well, no. My problems kind of still continued, like the frequent zone outs and forgetfulness, and as I went into the 6th form, things started to become more difficult. I still employed the strategy of spamming exam questions, and by the end of it, I felt like I had one brain cell left. I graduated with a GPA of 3.9 over 4. There was one day when some of my friends were joking about how my brain just felt like a lagging Windows server, and I was like, holy shit, that was actually how I felt. Around that time I had a chance to speak to a psychiatrist, so I saw him and decided to find out what was wrong with me. The doctor said, well, your grades are good, you probably are fine. I was like, oh sure, fair enough. The professional had spoken, what else could I have said? Then I went to university. When I went to university, I had a big problem. Past year papers weren't as plentiful as before. Professors love to ask new and creative, sometimes bizarre questions as well. If I did have past year papers, I often do not have enough time to do that, and also a lot of information was conveyed through lectures, which I sucked at listening to. COVID forcing me to stay at home and listening to the heavy accents of the professors didn't help either. At present, I have gotten so many C's that I might as well be a carbon polymer. I also had trouble at work. Throughout my life, I have worked multiple part-time jobs and almost always I get told, if you behave like this, you are never gonna survive in the working world. Worried about my future, I decided to consult a psychologist. This time, I went well prepared, listing down the many problems that I had. The test was a series of questionnaires and I got most of my checkboxes ticked for inattentive type ADHD. My mom also attended a session to cross-check the validity of my responses. For those who didn't know, there are 2 types of ADHD, the hyperactive type and the inattentive type. Hyperactive ADHD is the one that you are probably thinking of right now, the kid who can't sit still and causes a lot of trouble. And inattentive ADHD usually features people who are dreamier. So the psychologist told me that I was most likely to have inattentive type ADHD. Or was it? Could it have all been fake? Well, unfortunately, the way I prepared for the consultation might have skewed the results. It was almost like preparing for court and attempting to show the evidence to convict someone of a crime. Of course, the psychologist was doing her job and she was great, but I think the standard method of testing by using questionnaires might have fallacies. There were actually many other factors that might be coming into play here. I could just be sleep deprived, I could be overcritical of myself, I could be lying, I could be just not trying hard enough. Maybe all along, I had been trying to find an excuse for my behaviors. That said, ADHD or not, there are some things that are in my control. Technology is my best friend and I should always write down something important on my phone or use an alarm. And never assume that I will remember anything. And patience and self-love are very important. I found my earpieces, by the way. They were under my bed for some reason.